welcome to another edition of the NCBI Podcast. I'm June Tinsley, Head of Communications and Advocacy with NCBI. And today I've been joined by Brendan Laffan, who is based in Limerick and is presently a CE worker in the NCBI shop in Newcastlewest. He's vision impaired himself and has plenty of experience both in the shop, but also as a DJ on a local radio station. So I look forward to chatting with you, Brendan. Welcome aboard. And I suppose if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, I originally grew up in Kilfinney on a farm, June, and I lived there for a good while, and then I went to Drumcondra to public school Rosmini for 3 years before going to college, and then I moved to the radio station volunteering nearly full time. I was doing 9 to 5 nearly every day, and I was doing 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock Saturdays and Sundays, so I was busy always, and I was fundraising and things like that. So that's how I really got involved with the radio side of things. I like listening to audiobooks and getting new books from the libraries. I have fishing and doing antique fairs.
Fabulous. And I suppose just tell us a little bit about your experience on West Limerick 102 FM. What did you enjoy most about being there?
It was a great thing. It was hard work. I won't lie. I was doing 1, maybe 2 shows every day, so I'd come up with music for nearly 3 hours of shows. And that was a bit of fun, trying to mix and match everything, trying to create, trying to get new songs that people hadn't heard and old ones that people loved. So I loved that bit, and I used to read the news and sport as well. When they were stuck for news and sport editors, I used to do the news and sport out in Braille and the weather, and go into the studios and read it live. Sometimes record it, but most of the times I used to do it live, and that was a great, interesting thing for me to I suppose be the person behind the microphone, to get to know how to do it, and to be compared, like, to see how they do it on other radio stations. Just kind of fascinating to see how things go out recorded and live at the same time.
Yeah, very much so. And tell me, how accessible did you find the studio for someone with a vision impairment?
The studio is very accessible. There was no steps, no nothing. It was all on the flat, and you just went in one door to the office and you went in through another door to go to the studios. I suppose the big thing was really that you kind of had to familiarize yourself with the equipment, but once you got used to the equipment, it was very easy enough, straightforward to do it. But you kind of have to have a side person to take you around the equipment first, just so you know what buttons not to press and to press. But then it was okay, and once you got used to it, it was great.
Great, because I mean, as you know, the sound desks in studios have multiple buttons and levers and everything. So as you rightly say, you would need to familiarize yourself with how to navigate around that.
Absolutely.
And were you able to accept kind of live callers as well from listeners or anything like that?
Yeah. I learned to push up the right faders to do interviews with callers. I done interviews for the sports shows, and I used to do interviews for the music shows as well. I interviewed a few musicians, and that was great fun too. Yeah, getting to hear people on air about their experiences and everything.
Fabulous. And do you have any kind of one outstanding funny moment or memory of working in the radio station?
I can remember one time I was set up to interview Albert Hammond. He was coming over to Ireland on concert dates, and I had rang on the off chance, and I got offered an interview. And then the day of the interview, we got a storm which took every electricity thing out of proportions, and we couldn't do the interview. And I was so looking forward to doing that interview with Albert, and the day then it just happened that we got a storm and all electricity went out, so the interview never happened. But I suppose that was one of my memories from it, and meeting everyone downtown when I used to fundraise selling tickets. I used to be down there 4 days a week from 9 o'clock to 3:30, and just the amount of people that come up and knew you from the radio station and would actually look out for you was fabulous.
Well, you sound like a bit of a local celebrity yourself, Brendan.
A bit.
Fair play to you. And are you still involved with the radio station?
I still keep in touch. I'm not as involved now, I suppose, since the fact that I've gone on a community scheme. But in my spare time, I still keep in touch to see do they need anything done, or if there's any spare shows going like that I could help out with.
Excellent, excellent. And is the studio near enough to your home, or is it a bit of a trek?
No, it's only about 2 or 3 minutes down the road by drive. It's about 10 minute walk, I suppose. So it's not too bad.
Okay, great, great, great. And I suppose just I'm obviously curious about all this. During a COVID period, was the studio open, or did you have to do stuff from home pre-recorded so it could be aired that way?
It was open, but we used to stagger our time. So if I was on at 12 o'clock, I used to come in till 5 to 12 till the lads were playing till someone else was playing their last song. And then
Right.
I would leave them play a song to introduce my show, and I would come in then when they had slipped out.
Okay, okay. So it was kind of a staggered thing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I suppose I'm interested in that because obviously radio played such an important role in people's lives during COVID, particularly when people were restricted in their movements and stuff. So it was such a lifeline for many people.
Of course, and during the COVID period, like we were all listening to the radio and to television, and I used to go down to do shows for lads who needed to be covered because they were out sick or whatever, and I used to get a great buzz just of people ringing and asking for this song and that song. 90% of the time you mightn't have had it, but they were happy if you played anything for them, so that was lovely.
Yeah, I suppose it just instilled a sense of community, particularly during a challenging time.
Yeah.
Yeah, radio plays such an important aspect in people's lives. And I suppose, Brendan, now, as I mentioned at the outset, you're presently working with the NCBI Newcastlewest store.
I
So
am.
that's fabulous. What is your role in the shop there?
Well, I'm on a CE scheme for the last nearly year and a half there, and loved every minute of it. My role basically is behind the scenes. I tag the clothes so that someone else can price them. I put prices on books, check DVDs and CDs to make sure they're working, and little things like that to kind of make sure that the shop kind of runs smoothly.
Fabulous, fabulous. And have you got to know some regular customers and stuff like that?
Um, I haven't been out on the front. I just love doing stuff in the back, but there's a few people who know me going in from the radio station that would pop in and say hello.
Fair play to you. Fair play to you. And again, how do the shop staff help you out just to make sure you can carry out your duties?
Um, well, naturally, I suppose really clothes. Now, I would know the difference between nearly women's and men's and kids, but sometimes they hang on the left and sometimes they hang on the right. So they would tell me if the color is blue, will say to put the tags on the left sleeve so that people could see the size and the price and things like that on the way the jumper, t-shirt, whatever is hanging.
Yeah.
So that's the way they help me, and they would write out the tags for the books and DVDs so that I would price them then when I've everything checked and done. Um, that's just a number of ways they help me as well.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. And tell me, is DVD still a very popular donation to receive?
Um, not I suppose not as popular now. You do get the odd bag or two in now and then, but you won't be getting them every week. We'll say it'll be only once a month maybe that you get a bag or two of DVDs or CDs in.
Yeah, it's interesting how times have changed, isn't it?
Very.
Yeah, more people are relying on streaming and Netflix and all those kind of
Other
um,
services, yeah.
other services. Exactly, exactly. And is there much demand to sell the DVDs? Do you find?
No, not really. You might sell a few every now and then, but they wouldn't be flying out the door, as we say. Like you get books in every day of the week, but books do sell because some people are still interested in reading books. But
Yes,
DVDs are very, very slow to go, and so are CDs,
yes,
just
I'd
because of the
imagine.
times we're in.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But it's good to know that the books are still hardback books are still popular.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And in terms of the donations, have you noticed an increase in volume in the recent past?
Yes, especially after Christmas, because I suppose people are doing clear outs and stuff like that. You would notice a lot of bags coming in the first few weeks of January, February, maybe we'll say after Christmas.
Yes, yes. But that's a good thing then, because it means that
Absolutely.
the store is nearly self-sufficient and not relying on other stock to arrive.
Yes.
Yeah, which is great. And how many volunteers are working with you?
Um, all the other girls are there. We have one or two volunteers, and then all the rest are on CE schemes. So there's about 6 or 7 women, and I'm the only boy then stuck in the crowd.
Well, I'm sure you're enjoying that.
Absolutely.
Good, 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 good. And tell me, how long do you envisage being with the store? How long will the scheme last for?
Well, I'm hoping to get an extension this year to last until next year, and then when I finish, I hope to go volunteering because I do
Brilliant.
love it.
Yes, great, great, great. Well, it's fabulous to have you as part of the team. And is there much turnover in volunteers or CE staff? Have you realised?
I suppose maybe once a year that would be depending on how things are going, but generally the people who are there for a good while.
Yes. So that kind of helps build a sense of community and team
Yes.
between you all, isn't it? Doesn't it? Which is
And to be
great.
fair, I will say they are all very good, to if you are struggling with anything, they will give a help out any way they can. I will say they're very good that way.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I'm sure the run up to Christmas was a busy period in the shop.
Yes.
Yeah, very much so. It's certainly the busiest time of year. And I suppose that the other question I'm interested in, Brendan, is over the years, have you availed of many NCBI services yourself?
Um, Certainly, I would have will say availed of when I used to be going to schools and things like that of different places that I didn't know. They used the mobility officer come out from Limerick and show me around the buildings and whatever. When I was getting communion confirmation, they used to come out and show me around the churches so I know where to go and everything like that. So that was a fantastic service to get just so you knew where to go. And
Yes,
still to this day, to be fair, if you were ever stuck and you did need mobility, they would come out and offer any help they could. And
brilliant.
then of course the technology as well. I've gotten several computers and pieces of machinery off the technology, and they're very good to offer advice or even to show how to use the machines.
Yes.
So that is brilliant. And the shops in Kilkenny and Dublin for supplies like canes and braille paper and other little bits and pieces like that.
And are you a Braille user yourself, Brendan?
Since about the age of 4.
Oh, okay, brilliant, brilliant. And do you use any of the digital Braille readers or anything?
Um, I have used one years ago, but I haven't actually used one regularly myself. I prefer the good old Braille machine.
Oh, interesting. Okay, okay. And have you used Braille in any of your roles, either in the radio station or in the shop?
In the radio station, certainly when I was doing the news and sport live, I would braille out the news from other websites and reword it my way so that it wouldn't sound copyrighted or whatever. That I would braille it out. I would braille the stories out and just go in and read it then off the sheet
Yeah.
when I went into studio.
Oh, fair play to you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I suppose the one final question that I ask all my guests really is there one piece of advice that you would give to another person who's been recently diagnosed with a sight loss condition?
The one piece of advice I will give is just go to ring the NCBI, seek help if you're in any need or anything like that. Just ring them. They're very good. They're for helpful for advice. So just ring the NCBI, and if you need any advice, and they'll be more glad to give it or help that you need filling out stuff or anything like that. They're very helpful. That's the one piece of advice I would give.
Glad to hear it and glad it's been beneficial to yourself. And I suppose just to say thank you very much, Brendan, for being part of the podcast today. You sound certainly like a busy man. and I wish you all the best in the shop in Newcastlewest. If any of our listeners are there, feel free to pop in and say hello to Brendan. And also all donations are gratefully received to the shop. If anyone is interested in availing of our services, feel free to call our info line 1800 911 250, or alternatively go to our website ncbi.ie. All these podcasts are available on our different podcast platforms, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. But for now, Brendan, I'd just like to say thanks very much for having a chat with me out your busy day, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me on.